Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Night Luke Live Online. I'm Father James DiLuzio, and tonight's pericope, don't you love that word? Tonight's pericope is Luke chapter 21, verses 20 through 28. When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that its desolation is at hand. Then those in Judea should flee to the mountains, and let those within the city escape from it, and let those in the country not enter the city. For these days are the time of punishment, when all the scriptures will be fulfilled. Woe to pregnant women and nursing mothers in those days, for a great calamity will come upon the earth, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken, and a wrathful judgment made upon this people. They will fall by the edge of the sword and be taken as captives by all the Gentiles, and Jerusalem will be trampled upon by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles will be fulfilled. There will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the seas and the waves. People will die of fright in anticipation of what is to come upon the earth, for all the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, for your redemption is at hand. The Gospel of the Lord. So, here again, we see Jesus using apocalyptic, sometimes it's hard to say, apocalyptic language, with all the visions, using that fear technique that was very popular in the testaments of the Jewish scriptures and the Christian scriptures. Jesus is very part of the milieu. He's borrowing from Daniel and Hosea and Malachi and many other great prophets before him, using it as his teaching tool. But again, we push through the fear veneer, right? Not to fall in and get frightened, but to know this is the Bible's way of saying these are important, this is serious. In the end, he's saying, don't get caught up. Don't get caught up in the fears and the anxieties and the worries and the greed and the hatred and the other motivations of the world. Know who you are. Know who God is. Know who God is calling you to be. Stand firm, as we get that great line at the end. Hold your head up. Your redemption is at hand. You don't have to give in to all these fears or all this violence. He starts this section with when Jerusalem's surrounded by armies, making a universal statement is when people are putting all their effort into wars and to power, they're always going to be defeated. If you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. He makes that reference. He doesn't say it exactly in this section, but he's definitely referring to a very strong statement that he and many prophets have made prior to him. Yes, Luke is writing this with a reflection on the great destruction of the temple and Rome's destruction of Jerusalem in 70 A.D. Luke is writing around 85, as you know. And so he's saying, yes, this is devastating. Everything has to be looked at differently. Scriptures are being fulfilled, and they'll continue to be fulfilled, in that calamities are part of the error and the fallibility and the sins of this world, but don't give in to them. You don't have to fight fire with fire. And stand firm, again, is so very important. The nature will always have its signs that we can interpret in fear, or again, we can look for what the signs of real hope are and what real truth is, and persevere with courage to name the truth and claim our own dignity and the dignity of others, inviting others to see the vision that the Jewish prophets laid out hundreds of years before Jesus, of a land where everyone comes to God through believing people. And that's Judaism and that's Christianity. In this context is what we're talking about here. So there's no need to be afraid. There's many other things. I can't help but, of course, get a little goosebumps when he talks about the signs in the heavens and the stars and the seas and the perplexed nations. We are at a time where we have to pay more attention to the signs of nature. And global warming and what's happening in the seas is often going to be part of what's happening on the land. So again, he wasn't predicting this. It's not so specific, but it is quite universal. Every age, every generation, every century has its particular challenges, and we can see in these words, well, this is something to help us wake up to ourselves. So I hope I gave you enough to chew on. The day is coming to a close. What time is it here? It's 10:07 p.m. New York City time. It's time for me to kind of wind down. And I'll see you Friday for Young at Heart. Good night, everyone. Blessings for the week.